Hello guys and welcome back to this video. Now, in our previous class we talked about CSS positioning, right? I would say we want to look at position and layout. They sometimes go together. So if I go back, this was what we looked at in the previous class. We talked about the five basic positioning systems, which are static, relative, absolute, and fixed. Which are static, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky position, right? So we talked about them. So this was the CSS file, right? We gave the illustration, static, the default position. Talked about relative, which is a position relative to the initial or the original position of the element, right? Then we talked about absolute, which is relatively absolute to a parent container or the browser if it doesn't say parent container. Then we'll talk about fixed as well. We said it's used for when you want something to be on the screen, no matter your position or your scroll position, to just be fixed on the screen. It is mostly used for things like what's it called, social media links and so on and so forth. This was the demonstration we gave, right? Sorry, I'm a bit fast. Then we'll talk about sticky, which combines the properties of both static and fixed positioning system, right? So in today's video, we'll be looking at CSS layout. Sorry, I'm kind of fast, so I'm going to be slow when I'm about to start the lecture. So let me just rename this file to be position.html, right? So I'm going to rename the CSS file of it to be position.css, right? Now inside the position.html, I'm going to call this guy position.css. So that will be for that. Then now I'm going to create a new file called layout.html. Then I'll create another file called layout.css, right? Now, what is layout? Coming, let me just bring back this. Then for this, okay, so that's for that. Now, let me link my CSS. I'll say link column CSS. Then I'm going to change this to layout CSS, right? Now, when we say layout, what do we mean? We are talking about the structure of our web page or the should I say structure, the look of the web page. Let me put it that way. Now, if you go to W3 school, so let's look at layout, right? So, like I said, we're going to be making use of this guy again. Let's look at website layout. Now, this website layout, right? Remember, I gave different parts of the website during the introduction of this course. We talked about header, navigation, content, main and aside, footer, and the rest. I will say them tags like what's it called, semantic tag. I used to create CSS layout or their tags give special meaning to the web page, things like that. But now, when I say semantic tag does all of that, it doesn't mean semantic tag will do the styling for you. You are the one to do the styling, right? So this is an example of a layout, right? So we have the header, this part now. So this just gives a, should I say, a nice and organized. Okay, it gives an organized way of how your website should look like. It gives a good look and feel of a website. So let me just show you an example of a website that uses layout as well. So okay, all websites use layout, so I don't know why I'm saying this. So let me just go to file, ask for that to workspace, right? Now if I come back here, desktop folder, the JB media, let me just add this, the JB media. Now the reason why I said all websites uses layout is because if I come back to this website, notice that this is the nav bar of this website, right? This is a layout, right? A left and right positioning system. So that was done with flex. Then you see another layout and so on and so forth. So it's just that some are simple, some are complex. So if I show you this, okay, I've hosted this the shipping media app. I'm going to see this now. If I want to section this into layout, I'll say this is the header, this is the nav, this is the main, the left hand side is the main, which is everything around here. This left hand side, oh, I don't know how to draw something here. Then this smaller part, which is the right hand side, is the aside, right? So you can see a layout system here. This is the what's it called, the footer. So I'm going to go back to my what's it called. Okay, there's no need for this. I thought I've not. This thing has been hosted. So let me remove this. So now let's talk about the layout. Now, how do we create layout in CSS? Right? So how do we create a layout in CSS? Now let me go back here and close this guy. Now, before the introduction of HTML5, developers normally create layouts using tables. You can imagine how stressful that would be. right? Let's say I want to create a layout now. I'll create a table. Okay, I taught you table now, right? You know how tables are. You have different columns. Then it's very stressful creating layout with table. Though I've not tried it, but I can imagine how stressful it would be. Now, there's what they call, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. There's what they call floats, right? In CSS layouts now, there are three things you need to take note. There's what they call floats, right? There's what we call flexbox, right? And there's what we call grid or grid system. Now, first of all, we're going to make use of float, right? I will teach you float, though what we are going to be using in subsequent classes will be flexbox and grid. But now, I'm going to teach you float first, right? Now, what does float means or what is it used for? Now, when we say float, it means we want to um put different content on our web page into columns, or should I say columns. We want to position them in such a way that they will be next to each other, left and right system, something like that. Now, let me come back here. If I come back here, let's say I have a div and I say lorem 300. So save this. Um, lorem 300, save that. Let me create another div and I say um, lorem lorem 100, right? Now if I save these two and I right click, open this with live server. Okay, let me just go back to the left. Hmm. If I right click this and open with live server, now this is what I will get, right? I have this text, right? Now I want to give them a class. Now let me just say class of main. I can say class of left and right, but let me just say main, right? Since this one is having more text, let me call it main. And I want to say class of aside, right? So I'll say class of aside, right? Now if I go up and go to my CSS, let me just close this position. So if I go to my CSS and say dot main, right? I can do something like background color red. You notice that the color has changed, right? But that's not what I want to do. Now I want to change the position. Also, I want to change the layout. I will see float, right? There's not property like layout property also. You change them, you style layout using float, flex, or grid. So I can say float to the left. Now what will happen? Nothing is happening, right? So it's still the same. Now I can now specify a width of, let me say, 70%. By the time I save, this is what is happening. Now I'm now having a two column system, right? So this is the main. Sorry, this is the main. Is now on the left hand part of the screen. Then this is what the aside on the right hand part. Now what do you notice? You notice that when I give a class of, what's it called, a class of float to left and a width of 70%, you notice that the aside, right, which is the other div, is taking up the remaining 30%, making what, 100%, right? So if I come here and I change this to 80%, the other one will take what, it will take 20% by default. So let's say for instance I come back here and I say, okay, I want to select the aside by saying dot aside, and I say I want to float this guy to the right, right? It will see, okay, good. You see what is happening? When I float to the right, it's now like there's nothing to it, right? It's taking 100% of his own line. Now I can set the width of this guy to be 20%. Let's see. This is what is happening. Now it's not taking up the remaining space over there, right? So I can set this to 30%. You all know what will happen. It will overflow and come down, right? So it's taking 30%, but then it's not fitting into that space. Now it is better to do 70 and 30, right? So that we know that, okay, we have a good distribution of these guys. Now, what should we notice now? What should we take note of? If I should come back here and give this guy a padding of 20 pixels, this is what is happening. That guy is now coming down. The reason is because the padding, what was happening, what I'm having now is no longer 100%. Are you following? Remember, 70 plus 30 will give me 100%, but now I'm now adding 20 pixels to the left and right of this one. So this is 100 pixel plus 70, sorry, this is 100% plus 20 pixel. Remember, it's more than the width of the screen, right? So that's why that one is going to the next line. That's what this thing means. 100% and 70 pixel. Now in order for us to understand this very well, let me give this guy a border of 1 pixel, solid black, right? Let me do something like this. Give this guy a border of this, right? Now, if you notice very well, that one is just having a padding, and see what is happening. Now, remember very well that when we started this guy, or when we started CSS, there's a universal selector anomaly that will say margin 0 pixel, right? Padding 0 pixel, right? So if I see, you can see that there's no default margin, right? And there's no default padding. So this padding is coming as a result of what I gave. If I remove it, you see it's out of there. In fact, the border, just by adding border alone, you saw what is happening. It's still pushing to the next line. If I should remove this border and this border, you notice that to go back to that top, you can see any slight changes to the width of it, we push it downstairs or we push it down. Now, that is why I use box sizing of border box at first. Remember I said you will understand later. Now, if I say box sizing of border box, now what this thing is doing is saying, okay, both the padding, the content, and the border should be what? Should fit into that spacing. So if I save, this is what is happening. So that's what this border box, borders, that's what this box sizing border box is doing. Such that even if I add padding to it, everything, both this padding and this what's it called, and this border will fit into this width of 70%. Both this padding and whatever padding, and both this border and whatever padding I will add, even if I put a padding of 100 pixel, it will fit into that place. Can you see it? They will all fit into this 30%. That's what this box sizing of border box is doing. Are you following? So there are different properties. You can see content box and the rest of them, but then those are really not used. So that's why I always add box sizing of border box, right? And you can see this extra space and all, they are fitting into that 30%. This extra space and all, they are fitting into this 70%. So take note, that's what it means. So let me change this padding to 20 pixel as well, right? You can see what it's doing. Sorry, 20 pixel. So you can see what it's doing, right? Now, if I should go back there and go under this and type, let me see, I have lorem. So let me put another div, and I say lorem um 200. So if I save, this is what is happening. You notice that this guy is now being placed under this, right? Now watch what will happen if I come back here. hmm, Let me add more text to this second one. If I say lorem 50. Now this is what is happening. So this guy is under. So what is the solution to this? Now in positioning, the solution to that is by doing something like this. Clear float. So I can put a div over here, right? Or let me see, I can select the div. Let me just say, okay. Let me just put a class of clear. So I can say class. So let me say class of clear, right? So just to come back here and select that class. You can put an empty div if you want. I will say float, right? Um, is it clear? Okay, clear boot. Let me see. So good, clear boot. So you can see what is happening. So this guy is now on his own line, right? So that will clear off the float. So I can give it margin top or padding top, anything of my choice, so that it will come down. So that's how to clear this and the rest. Okay, margin top is not working. Okay, so let me use padding top. So I can give a padding top. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Okay, good. Okay, it's working. Maybe it's because it's too small. So that's for that. That's for that. So you can see what float is doing, right? So when I float something to the left, I can also float the other guy to the right. Then when I add the what's it called, padding and margin, you notice that it will come to the next line or it will overflow down to the next line. But the box sizing of border box will what, it will make sure that whatever space or whatever padding and margin or border I'm adding, all of them will fit into that box, right? Now there's still a problem here. If I should come back here and add a margin to this, let me say margin of 20 pixel, it will still go to the next line. Can you see what's happening? So that will still go to the next line. So even though I was able to solve float by using box sizing of border box, I was not able to solve the margin of float by using this. If I still add margin here, right, margin of 10 pixel, I was not able to solve this using this, right? So that's why the knowledge progresses, so that's why it advances. Now if I should control Z, hmm, let's go over to what's it called, let's go over to flexbox now. So what is flexbox, or what's flexbox bringing to the table? So let me just comment all of these. Now let's talk about flexbox. If I save, this is what I'm getting. Now let's talk about flexbox. Now flexbox makes it such that I can arrange elements, right? Then I will arrange them in such a way that they will be placed in a parent container. Now you see all of these guys, I have div which are main, aside and clear. I can come back here, if I say I want to select this div and set a display of flex, you won't see any difference. Nothing is working well, right? So rather what we would have done is better to come back here and give a parent container. So let me give a class of container, right? Call this guy, sorry, Ctrl Z, call this guy and put it over here and save. Right, this is what is happening. So if you give a display of flex to that div, now it will affect this, but now this will affect all the divs. So let me just give that particular div, which is the parent one, which is called the container class. So when I set the display to flex, this is what is happening. Now these texts are too much, but then let's just leave it. You can see what is happening. Now it's placing the three of them side by side to each other. Now what this does by default is that the content, or the box with much content will take up much width, right? So if you look at this first one, it has the highest number of text, or the largest amount of text. If you look at its width is more compared to the other ones. Now how do you solve this? I can come back here and set dot container, then select all the divs, right? So I can set the flex property to be 1 for each of them. So you can see that all of them are taking up equal width, right? Yeah, take note. Now there's something I need to talk about in float. So let me just talk about it real quick. So something I need to talk about in float. Now in float, if you want to set now in float, if you want to set 50-50% or equal percent, now if I have this, I can say 50%, right? I can come back here and set 50%. Is that not so? So please take note of this. Now, if for instance I want to set 3 elements, I can, okay, that's not what I want to say. Um there's something 33.3%. Okay, that's for flex. Okay, fine. Let me just control Z. Hmm? So save. So this is what I'm getting. So three of them are now taking equal width. Now what this is doing is selecting all the divs, right? All the divs under container. So if I don't want to use this, I can decide to do something like this. Just container, and I'll say main. I'll set the flex to 1, right? So what will happen? So I can say dot container dot aside, I'll set the flex to 1, right? So I can come back here, I'll say dot container dot clear, I can set the flex to 1. So that's what it's doing. Three of them are taking up equal weight. So if I should set the flex of this one to 2, this will be times 2 of the other ones. Can you see what is happening? This is 2 times bigger than each of them, right? So please take note of that. So I can say 2 2. So both of these, the first will be of equal ratio, then the other one will be like half of them. So please take note of that. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to remove all of this. I think I will go with the flex of what's it called, 1. Now what does this do? I can set padding of 30 pixel for all of them. Can you see what is happening? All of them are also retaining that same stuff, right? All of them are retaining the same height, no matter what. Even though this content of this is more than the content of the other one, if I should go over here and put the text under, that text will be on the next line. It won't. So if I do something like div and I say lorem tag lorem 300 and save, this is what is happening. This is not affecting this flex positioning system. It's now, this in its place under, right? It's not affecting it. Now let me just go back and do more stuff here, right? So I can also set margin, margin of 20 pixels. So let's see what will happen. So even if I set margin, you can see what is happening. They are all still in this same box, right? They are still in that same box. So even if I set border, um border on 1 pixel solid black, right? So you can see what is happening. So let me just remove the margin. You can see what is happening, right? So that's what flexbox is doing, right? CSS position. So CSS layout, that's what Flexbox is doing. So I think I didn't add this thing, a description. So let me just see each one. Right, so I say CSS layout, right? So take note of that. So that's what those guys are doing. So that's this about the what's it called, the flex position. But now, when do you use flex? Or let me just demonstrate grid before I talk about when to use flex and grid. So you can see that flex is solving the problem, right? Flex is solving the problem. But now, what flex cannot do is this: if I want to set width of this div, right? Now, because I use flex of one, oh, okay, I already have the knowledge of it, that's why. Because I use flex of one, now if I want to set these three boxes, so let me just come here. I think the text are too much. The text on them are too much. Let me just reduce this guy. Uh, let me see. I want to reduce this. Sorry about this. Uh, Let me reduce this to lorem lorem 50, right? So save. Coming. I want to reduce the three of them to lorem 50. Uh, this guy. Lorem, lorem 50. Save. Oh, okay. Oh, I have four stuff over here. Let me remove this guy. So I'm sorry about this. So let me change this to lorem 50. Right? So the text are too much. There's something I want to demonstrate. I don't need much text. So let me change this to uh, lorem 50. So lorem 50. Right? So watch what I will have. Now this is what I'm having. Now, if you notice very well, the three of them are what's it called? They have the same text or the same amount of text. That's why this thing is fitting in. Now, if I want to set the width of this guy and I say 30% of this guy, say okay, this div should take 30%. This is what I'm having: 30%, 30%, 30%. Now, let's say I want to give them equal width that will fit in 100%. I can do something like this: 33.3%, right? 33.3%. So they will take up the width, right? But in order for me to get an accurate measurement, I don't need to do this, right? I just need to set their flex position to 1. Are we following? So I need to set their flex position to 1 each. Now, if I should Ctrl Z and go back to when I was having much text, so let me just Ctrl Z. So when I was having much text. Now, this is what will happen. I can remove this guy. I can set the width of each of them to be 30% to still do the same thing. Can you see what's happening? Or I can set 33.3%, right? So you can see all of them are taking up the same way. But then this is not accurate. It is better for me to just use something like this, because 33.3 times 3 will not give you 100. It's 99.9, which is approximately 100 sharp. But then let's see. So if I do this, this will work, right? So we've seen float. Float is good, but then there is a drawback to float. Then we've seen flex. There's also, okay, there's no drawback to flex, but then I'll tell you when to use flex. Now let's look at grid. If I save this now, right? I have so when you want to do grid as well, you need a parent container. So this is my parent container containing these three guys, right? So let me scroll down. Then this other guy is separate, right? It's not among the div, right? This one is separate. Now let me come back here and select the container. If I say dot container, I can set the display to grid, right? If I say display grid, nothing will happen. Remember when I use display flex, it's let me just show you again. Display of flex, by default this was happening. It's placing them side by side, but display of grid is not doing anything. I need to set a property called grid template columns, right? So I will say repeat, then I will say 3 comma auto, right? Remember I'm having three elements there, so if I save this, so it will take three. I need three columns, and all of them will be of the same width. That's what the auto means, right? Now I can also do something like 3 comma 1 fraction, so it will do the same thing. So this is what I like using if I don't use flexbox. This is what I like using. As you can see, the other element is still under, unlike when I was doing float. It's not being placed under this guy, so it's placed under, just like do I have the flex, right? The reason is because this container is separate from this other one. The container holding these three first elements or three first divs is separate from the other one. So take note of that. So you can see that when doing layout, grid is a very flex and grid are very important elements, right? Now let's see, if you look at what I have here on this CSS page, if I want to use flex to do this, it will be very easy, right? Flex and grid will be very easy. As you can see, this is what this the size of the main content is bigger than this guy and this guy by a certain ratio. I can't tell the ratio, but it's like let me say times three of them, right? So I can say three of this content or four of it will give me this main content. So I can do something like that using flex, right? It's just to set the flex of the center one to be 4, then the flex of the left and right to be 1, right? So for something like this, I can set the flex of this to be 3, flex of this to be 1, right? So please take note of that. So these are the things you can use flex to do. You can also design it using grid. Whatever flex can do, grid can do it as well. But then what I like doing is that if I want to do my nav bar, I'll use flex, right? But if I need product listing, I'll use grid. So let's say for this nav bar now, for instance, look at this nav bar over here. This nav bar, I don't know how to select this nav bar. Oh, sorry, this navigation bar, this gray area was done using flex. But then if I want to do grid, is when I will use for something like, let me say I'm going to Jumia .com.ng. Look at this guy. If I want to do this, I will do this using grid, right? Because grid will be more better doing something like this, though I can use flex. But then if I want to do something like this, grid is what I would prefer over flex. So please take note of that. So that's that about flex versus grid and floats for CSS layout, right? So if I come back here, what's it called, where am I going to? Okay, oh, A2Z website. So I want to show you something on this a2z.com.ng. So if you look at these, these are okay. This is a flex. Okay, product listings are mostly done using grid. So an example is this on Jumia. You can check Amazon as well. So please take note of that. So guys, that's not about CSS layout, right? So we've done positioning in our previous class, and now we just finished CSS layout. So we're going to be combining this knowledge to build a project, and in the course of building those projects, we'll be looking at other properties like z index, overflow, and so on and so forth. So guys, thanks very much. Do well to study. If you need a reference or a guide, you can check on W3 School. Let me just open it over here. If I say w3schools.com, you see the HTML, you see CSS, click on it. You can just go through. Like I said, time will not permit us to look at everything because we can't look at them ordinarily. You understand CSS more by building projects with it. Thank you very much, guys. See you on the next class, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks very much, guys.